Happy New Year, Steven.
Happy New Year, Brendo.
2024. I remember when I was in high school, like 2024 sounded so far out in the distance. Like, thought we were going to be living like the Jetsons.
Yeah.
And I realized this last week traveling. It's 2024 and you can't unpress an elevator button. Like, once you push a floor, you're locked into that floor.
That should have been fixed by now. Yeah.
So anyway, maybe we can work on that in 2025. But hey, new year, good to be back. Good to be back in studio. Big week here in Missoula.
Yeah.
National championship coming up this weekend. Your Montana Grizzlies against the South Dakota State University Jackrabbits.
Yep.
Is that right? Jackrabbits.
The bunnies, as we call them.
The bunnies. So yeah, big week.
Yeah. This has been a fun Christmas season with, obviously Christmas is awesome. Obviously we're in the full swing of basketball season. I love that. But just the town, the community, it feels like the 90s and early 2000s again in Missoula, where everybody's just jacked on Grizzly football.
It's alive and there's unity. Like everybody, we are all on the same team right now.
It feels like Montana is where it's supposed to be again. The Bobcats aren't playing. We're playing. And NDSU is not very good. So order has been restored.
It's great.
Sorry, Nick. I had to throw that in there.
But we got a tough one this weekend. But I believe we've got a shot. And in today's episode, our guest actually makes a prediction for the outcome of the game. So you want to be sure to listen to the whole episode and get his prediction at the end. But
yeah,
Steven, tell us a little bit about our guest.
This is, and probably because I played receiver when I was a young buck, not in college, but my favorite player, one of my favorite players, certainly, Samuel Akem. He was a legend, always found himself in the end zone. So strong, so big. He played some great football for many years. And the cool thing about it, and what we'll get into this in this episode, is he's still as fired up about Griz football as when he was playing. And he loves Missoula. He loves this community. And you can just see it. He's just a joy to be around. He was so grateful. What an excellent interview.
Oh, he's such a magnetic personality. You just want to hang out with him and be friends with him. I'm a huge fan of Sammy. I was 4 or 5 years ago when he stepped onto the field for the first time. But even now, getting to know him better, hearing his story, Samuel Akem, number 18, Montana Grizzly, super cool dude. He's got an amazing story, great conversation with Steve and I. Take a listen. All right, Sammy. First question for you. Is it more nerve-wracking being on the field playing in a big game or being a fan in the stands watching the big game?
Man, 10 times over a fan in the stands. You know, I said this on Twitter. As a player, you have a certain amount of impact that you can make on the game. And obviously I'm a receiver, so, you know, the quarterback plays a part in that, the offensive line. Everybody has to work together for plays to work, but I have an impact. I can make catches. I can make plays when they come my way. As a fan in the stands, I'm just hoping these guys execute, hoping these guys play to their best ability. And thank God they have all season. You know, it's been amazing to watch, but 10 times over as a fan, it's way more stressful.
How nervous were you in overtime, the North Dakota State game?
Man, my nerves were up when they made overtime. And then when they scored on the first play overtime, I was just like, oh my gosh, like, what is going on out here? So my nerves were over the top. I can't even explain.
Well, dude, we're so grateful you're here. I want to hear your story. I love to get to know you deeper. Let's go back to the very beginning. Who's Sammy? How'd you get into football? Where are you from? How'd you end up in Montana? Tell us a little bit about you.
Man, so I'm from Oklahoma, Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. A lot of people might not know Broken Arrow. Tulsa, Oklahoma is where I'm originally from. Suburb, Broken Arrow, but I say Tulsa because a lot of people don't know the Oklahoma area. Man, I went to the biggest high school in Oklahoma. My graduating class was like 1,100. And I know people from Montana, people from Montana are like, wow, this guy, I mean, that's bigger than a lot of people's high schools out here in Montana. So, you know, definitely a culture shock when I came out here. But I really started playing football, and I'll even say sports because of my brother. You know, my brother was a 4-star athlete. He's like been 6 foot since like 5th grade. He's just always bigger, stronger, faster than everybody, had offers from everywhere. And, you know, he was a great athlete. And I always wanted to be like him. I always wanted to chase after him. And, you know, obviously I had my own love for the game, which developed over time. But I think originally it was just like me chasing after my brother and me wanting to be like him. And eventually found my own love and found my own way in the game and realized, I'd say kind of late, probably my sophomore or junior year, that I had a little bit of talent. And, I went to a few camps in high school, tried to get some offers, didn't really get much traction, and ended up getting one offer from Montana. And, it blossomed into what it is today.
How did they find you?
So my brother went to Oklahoma State. Brady Walls, who was my offensive coordinator in high school, he coached with Coach Seymour, I believe at TU or somewhere they had coached previously together. And my brother, Coach Seymour, had helped recruit my brother to Oklahoma State, where he eventually committed to. And Coach Seymour was now, during 2015, when I was getting recruited by Montana, Coach Seymour was now at Montana as the DC. So he was recruiting our area. The connection was made between Walls and being my OC, and then formerly knowing my brother, who was a 4-star. So they gave me the offer, which honestly was not, like, they really took a whim on me because, I got recruited by Coach Stitt. If you guys remember the Stitt offense, I got recruited to play tight end, the stand-up H position. So Bingham, gosh, I'm blanking on some of the guys' names. McKenna Simmons, what's his name? Mitch Roberts' brother, Ben Roberts, that position. They wanted me to play that position. Well, it was my freshman year that, I got freshman, what is it called? Scout Team Player of the Year. And they realized that I, had some athleticism and that I could probably play all the receiver positions. So,
What'd you play in high school?
Receiver. I played receiver, but I kind of played inside, outside. I played them all in high school, but I did a lot of blocking on my junior film. So, Coach Seymour saw that, thought that I could fit the H position. I was bigger, taller. They didn't realize till I got here that, I was bigger, taller, but I couldn't put on a lot of weight, which is what you kind of needed for the H. So I was really athletic and could run. They ended up moving me outside. But yeah, the connection was made between Walls and Coach Seymour.
When you first got to the University of Montana, did you know how crazy this culture was for football? Or, I mean, I know you came from University of Oklahoma. Oklahoma State's crazy down there. But were you shocked by this little town in Montana and all the people that loved it and the culture and the, I guess, tradition?
I was, and I have a crazy story for you. This story just came full circle this year at one of the games before the pregame tailgate show. But so 2015, I got my offer March 2015, the end of my junior season, the spring of my junior year. I remember I got the offer and I told my mom, like, immediately, I was like, I want to commit, like, I want to go to Montana. And she was like, no, that's Montana. She had been through the process with my brother, like taking visits and stuff. So she kind of knew, like, you don't just want to jump on the first offer because, there's so many things that could change. Also, it's Montana, 23-hour away for us, like, that's a big dip.
It's cold.
Yeah. All these things that, I can't experience until I'm out here.
Yeah.
So, I had talked to a friend who had got offered, who was at South Dakota, and he had experienced getting offers from Missouri Valley teams. So he felt that I was going to get more Big Sky. And so I waited. July comes around. I didn't get any more Big Sky. That was still my only offer. I had other D2s and like JUCOs, but Montana was like the main concrete offer that I had. July, I'm like, Mom, I want to commit. The season's about to start. I'd like to take this off my mind. She's like, no, we're going to take a visit in a couple months. Like, you'll be good. So October, we finally took a visit. And funny enough, the Griz actually lost. It was against Weber State. But I'll never forget. I was in the student section. A fan came up to me. He was like, hey, are you Sammy Akem from Broken Arrow, Oklahoma? Like, we need you. And I was like, me of all people, like, how does this guy know me? There's 25,000 fans, 24, whatever it was that day, like in the stadium. Like, how does this guy know who I am? Well, fast forward to this year at the tailgate show. I've told that story a couple times too, but this guy came up to me and was like, you know how you always talk about that guy who came up to you in the stands and like told you need to come here? That was me. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I told this guy, I was like, you have no idea like what impact you had on me and like how that affected my overall outlook on the Griz fan base and just like me, like he made me want to come here. And that speaks directly to like what I experienced when I came and saw the Missoula fan base and just how rabid they were and just how, how they, how involved they were with the football team. It spoke volumes to me. And I can never forget it.
What was that first winter like for you?
Man.
Was that tough?
It was so brutal.
I guess that fall too. I mean, you're practicing in the cold.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, man. I remember. So me, Samori, Brennan, I'm trying to think about freshmen, Lewis Cowens, a bunch of us freshmen who Josh Egbo, all of us who would hang out together. We used to we would put the Vaseline on our hands and then we would put the latex gloves on and then we would put our football gloves on because that like it was so cold, and I don't know if it helped too much, but we thought we had heard that was what would help, so that's what we did like because we were playing scout team at that time, so we put that on every day during scout team, especially late October, November, so it was definitely a culture shock. And the snow, oh my gosh, like we get snow a little bit in Oklahoma, but it's gone like 2-3 days max. I remember my first winter 2016 going into 2017, I was like, it just seems like the snow, they never turn the snow off. Like it's snowing forever. And I remember that 2017, it snowed until like April. And I was like, what is this? Like, I just didn't get it. But it was definitely a change of scenery for sure.
Well, we'll get into your football career at Montana, but here we are now 2024. You're still in Missoula. What keeps you here? Why are you still in the cold and the freezing on the sideline, putting yourself in stressful situations?
Man, so I actually moved away briefly after I did my pro day here and was at home for a little bit. I feel like a lot of kids do that, just go home, just to get things back centered. Wanted to be around my family. I hadn't been around them in a long time. So I was back home for a couple months, but then, my fiance now, she ended up getting a really solid job out here. She works for Hub International, and we just realized that the opportunities out here for us are better, because I went to school out here. I know more people out here. Obviously, I grew up in Broken Arrow, but I was a young kid when I really started to make waves and, make relationships that would last in my life. Those all were made in Missoula. So personally, on a personal level, I felt like it would be more advantageous for me to live in Missoula. And also my fiance's career path right now is in Missoula. Yeah. So it just made more sense for me to move to Missoula. And, I love the community. I feel like it's an amazing community to raise a family, to be a citizen of this community. I just think it's awesome. I just think they rally around the school. They rally around their community. I mean, think about the podcast I'm on right now. You guys highlight the Missoula community and what great things people are doing in this community. So you guys speak volumes to this community, and this is part of the reason why I returned to the Missoula community for sure.
So as you've transitioned out of football, and again, we could talk about your career so much. What are some of those opportunities that have come up for you? And I know you want to be here, but what is been highlighted or came up that you're doing now? We don't even know what you're doing.
Okay, so last year, I do a lot of DEI work with diversity, equity, inclusion, and Rajim Seabrook. I don't know if you guys know the name. He's been very instrumental in me getting in that line of work. I emceed a summit last year with him where they're highlighting a lot of the DEI efforts in the community. And he was gracious enough. He was going to be the MC. And this is why I think it's so important for people to have mentors and people to have somebody that's looking out for them, that somebody who's looking out for the next generation. Rajim Seabrook is always doing that. He was going to be the MC for this DEI summit. And he knew that that was something that I was interested in and I wanted to get into. He allowed me to be able to, and this was a paid summit, something that he was going to be paid for. So he ultimately passed the paycheck off to me for me to MC it for him. I just can't speak enough about him, but he allowed me to step in and do that for him. So that's a little bit of work that I've been doing, but also, on the media side of things with football, Riley Corcoran has been gracious enough to be able to allow me to get into the media space and do the pregame and postgame tailgate show. And it's so minuscule, but I feel like the reception that I've had from the fan base and the community has been amazing. And, everybody talks about how, they love to hear me on the radio. They appreciate the perspective that I bring. So it's been amazing to do that. But really, I'm in graduate school now through the USFL. That's been amazing. I'm studying sports psychology. So, trying to get my master's degree, trying to do things in the community to help the youth, further the youth that are coming behind us. I do some speaking now as well. I spoke at Florence this year. I also spoke at, where am I trying to say? Highway 1. Gosh, Braxton's hometown. Anaconda. I spoke at Anaconda the week leading up to the Cat game, and it was great. I mean, Blake Hempstead.
The Griz game.
Yeah. But I spoke there, and it's just really trying to, ultimately what I'm trying to say is I don't so much know where my path is fully headed. I know I'm doing a lot of things right now, but really just trying to spread my wings and figure out where I really belong in this world, because I am, in that transition space of being probably on the back end of my football career and being on the next half of, what my future career is going to be. So I've been trying to branch out and really figure out where I fit in this world and trying to figure out my purpose.
And you're also still playing ball.
Yes.
The Philadelphia Stars, which getting a paycheck now to play.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What's that experience been like?
Man, it's been amazing. I say this all the time to people, it's not, not many people get to play after college. And of course, everybody would love to be in the NFL. I would love to be in the NFL. I work my butt off to make it to the NFL. I feel like I am good enough to play in the NFL. Ultimately, that's decision makers in the NFL who make that decision. All I can do is continue to work and keep my head down. But to be able to play in the USFL and be able to play football professionally for a paycheck, as you say, it's been amazing. I just can't say enough. I'm just so gracious, and so I'm so grateful to be able to still play the game that I love at a high level, and to be able to learn from so many guys that have played in the NFL, so many guys that I played against in the Big Sky, like Case Cookus, Aaron Rodriguez, like Tristan Thompson, so many of the guys that I played against in the Big Sky over the years. I tell this story all the time. I don't know if you guys know about Case Cookus. You remember 2017, Northern Arizona?
Oh,
yes, yeah.
The quarterback got ejected.
Yeah.
He's now my quarterback.
That's awesome.
So I remember the first time he walked into the meal room during the season last year. I was just like, hey, man, do you know what I'm about to ask you about? He's like, yeah, 2017 when I got ejected. I was like, yeah, man, like, what were you thinking? He's like, I don't think I should have been ejected. But it was just, we had some fun banter about it. He's
awesome.
he's a great guy. But to play in the USFL, it's been amazing.
It's really cool.
Now, transitioning back to your career, do you have a moment or a game that stands out as maybe the most impactful memory that you have from your career? Which there was a lot of moments. I know that's really hard to think about.
It is tough because personally, I feel like early on in my career, especially like 2018 when I had my breakout season, a lot of my breakout games were in losses. And then like 2019, I'm trying to think. I had a really good game the first game of the season, but that doesn't really stand out to me. If I could really speak to a game that stood out to me, it probably wasn't even like a game where I shined, but it had to be 2021 Cat Griz, because before then I was 0-3 against the Cats. I think I might have had 30, 40 receiving yards, if that, during that game. But just the fact that the stadium environment, I'll probably say this, the whole 21 season, because then we played Eastern Washington. I had a pretty good game against Eastern Washington, and that was a big game too in the playoffs. And it was just like, just the moments we had that year where some of them were just super special, getting to play Eastern Washington again that year and get the redemption.
That was a fun playoff game.
Oh,
Just,
yeah.
They were talking a lot of trash.
Oh, yeah. So that's what made the Furman game this year so fun.
Right.
Because of whether we
Just
boosted
the bulletin board material.
The bulletin board material.
Awesome.
Whether we boosted it up or not, you got to do that
Right.
sometimes,
Right.
But that's what makes it great, and that's what made that game great. And then obviously the Cat Griz game, that's always going to be amazing. So it was
That's
awesome.
You had 30, 40 plus games in your career here in Montana. Is there a road game, an environment that's just hostile you hated going to? You hated their stadium, you hated their locker rooms, you just dreaded that road trip?
The neighbors.
Is it?
Their locker room is just, it's just like a small locker room. This is how I've remembered it. I only really played there once because I was hurt in 2019 when we went there. So I really only got to play there once. But the locker room is so small. There's just like chairs lined up and like around. There's no space. And then you're walking out. The student section is right to your right, and then the fans are to your left. But like they're throwing things at you, spitting on you. Like they're vicious.
Yeah.
That's definitely the most hostile environment I've played in, and I love it. But if I could speak to one hostile environment, it's that for sure.
Well, what was that like coming from Oklahoma? And obviously there's a rich tradition of Montana players playing at the University of Montana. Did you mix well with the Montana kids? Was there any,
Friction?
Friction. You're not taking our spots, or was it just like, hey, we're team?
Well, there was I'm not going to say friction, but there were some, we're not going to take our spots, but I put that on myself. I feel like I personally came in probably a little cocky, a little big-headed, and me and Keenan Curran laugh about this all the time because like I was just such a hard-headed young guy, and I didn't understand the reins of being a college football player. As a high school player at your high school, think about this. You're the best player on the team. Like usually when you make it to D1 football, you were the best guy or one of the best players on your team. But then when you go to college, everybody in that locker room was that guy at their high school, and I felt like I was good, and I still would stand on the fact that I felt like I was the best player in the room. But when you're coming in as a young guy, it's probably not the best tactic to take
To make friends.
And you can ask Keenan about this, you can ask Horner about this, ask Mike Ralston, all the guys who were in the room with me at that time. They'll all, even the freshmen who were freshmen with me, they'll all agree Sammy was, because I'm a talkative guy. I love to have fun. I love to joke around, but that probably played against me as a freshman, when I'm the new guy coming in. they're like, who the heck is this guy? This guy hasn't proven anything. And it's so funny because when I became a veteran on the team, I started to understand that, like, no, like, I don't care how good you are. You got to earn your stripes on these guys because, like, I'm coming in. I haven't done any winter condo with these guys. I haven't done any offseason training. I haven't sweat with these guys. I haven't bled with these guys. I haven't cried with these guys. You know, once you get a couple years under your belt and then you have been through the program and you have like sweat, blood, tears, you have put in the hours, that's when you earn the respect. You earn it on the field. You earn it in the locker room. You earn it in the weight room. You don't earn it just by walking through the door and being who you are.
Okay, Sammy, I'm going there. Wasn't going to do this, but I am. Who is the greatest wide receiver all time, University of Montana?
Man.
Because you're tied for a record.
Yeah, I am.
You are.
I am. That's tough.
Let me rephrase it. Who's one of the guys you really look up to and respect? Just a ton of admiration for what he did for the game.
I look up to Marc.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a twofold answer because if you ask me who's the best, personally, I'm going to say Samori Toure. He didn't play a full career here, but if you look at that 2019 season, and if you look at what he was probably going to do in 2020, 2021.
And where he is today and what he's
where
doing.
he is today.
Absolutely.
Like, I mean,
stud.
And that's my brother. So, I mean, but Marc Mariani, I mean, the way he's revered on this campus and the way, you know, I looked up to all his stats as a freshman and I never even imagined that I would be in the same conversation as him, you know, in terms of stats. But I mean, just the allure that he has on this campus, the legend that he has on this campus, just the all the great moments that he had. I mean, I think it's hard to put anybody above Marc Mariani.
And you and Marc are tied, correct?
For touchdowns.
For most touchdowns, University of Montana.
Mm-hmm. Receiving touchdowns.
Yeah. So there's that game, James Madison, you're on the road, playoffs, where you had potential to break that record, to advance, to take the Griz to the national championship. And was it first drive?
First drive
of the game.
Yeah.
You go down with a shoulder injury. I don't know who was more disappointed, you or me and my son watching the game in that moment. But what, I mean, for your college career to come to an end like that, what was that like?
Brutal because, man, like, I don't know, like players talk about this all the time. Athletes talk about this all the time when you feel like, you know, that feeling, you know, things just feel good. That was our first pass of the game, which I did catch, even though I broke my collarbone, like a great fade route for like 30 yards and we completed it. I felt really good. Like I felt like that was going to be my moment, not only to break Marc's record, but for me to like be the reason why we go to the next round. Like we've seen Junior do these last two games. Like he is the reason why we're going to the national championship. I personally believe, along with everybody else on the team, but he's been a big part of why we're going to the national championship. And I felt like that James Madison game was going to be like me putting my stamp on my career at Montana, cementing myself with the record, you know, having a great game, taking us to the semifinals. You know, obviously it didn't play out like that, but it was just devastating. And then, you know, as I come out of the locker room, I watch Cam slide and get knocked out of the game. So then, you know, as a player, you're hoping, hopefully they'll win without me, but then we lose our starting quarterback. It's like, the odds start to get stacked up against you. So it was just devastating. And I know how devastated fans were and just like, it just sucks to go out like that, man, you know?
You just mentioned him. How does Junior do it? Why are teams still kicking to him?
I don't know, man.
What is it?
I don't know. Like that kid is something special. I tell you right now, like he never looks phased. He always seems calm, cool, and collected. He's always able to control his emotions under pressure. And I always relate back to the 2021. This is when I knew Junior had it. I had been giving Junior some friendly banter all week, that 2021 Cat Griz game, about like, because a lot of people know he was committed to the Cats. He only switched over because Choate left. So I always give him crap about that. I'm like, man, like you and Tommy, y'all were buddies. Like you guys probably had a group chat together. These is things that I always told him about. And then he had that first play of the game in the 21 Cat Griz game. And I came to him in the locker room. We're having our meetings. And I tapped him. I was like, man, you might be one of us. And man, just like the poise that he has under pressure, his ability to always know when the moment is the biggest, when the lights are the brightest, his ability to always show up. I mean, I don't know if, I mean, it has to relate to his home upbringing, the way he, you know, where he's from, Billings Senior, him always being the guy at Billings Senior, coming up, watching Gabe Solster do it the right way at Billings Senior, and then him coming up under him, you know, just, I mean, what we see Junior do, that's really innate in him, you know, that's inside of him. Not everybody has that, but I mean, he's special. You can't even really put words to it. He's super special.
Yeah. The one time, so I'm season ticket holder. I don't talk to the players, you know, they're 19, 20, 21-year-old kids.
Right.
I'm not trying to yell at people, but I will tell you this one thing. During the Cat Griz game this year, Tommy got sacked on a rollout. I can't even remember who ran him down. It was awesome.
Right.
And I was screaming at Tommy, "You picked the wrong school. You picked the wrong school." It was the only time I've ever yelled at a player on the opposition, but that tension is there. I'm wondering, just from your perspective, I know you had Coach Hauk and his regime for a few years, and you also got Stitt, who did a phenomenal job, you know. But what is it about Hauk and his staff that continues to put our teams in a position to make deep runs? Like, is there something unique, special? What are the practices like? What's the culture like? It seems like it's highly competitive.
Yeah.
But what was your perspective of him and the coaching staff and how they're getting these guys to play for a national championship game?
It's very, I don't want to say business-like, kind of like machine-like. Like Hauk keeps everything the same, you know. Like I was just watching a video before I came in here. Hauk called off pursuit drill. He was like, "Merry Christmas, no pursuit drill," and that's probably the first time he's done that all year. Like, you know what you're gonna do, you know what's to be expected of you. He has high expectations of you, but you're not unaware of what those expectations are. Hauk is very transparent with the players and letting them know what is to be expected. He always tells people as well, when you're the best player on the team, when you're the best player at that position, you will play. My job is predicated on us winning football games. So when you're the best player, he says that every fall camp when we go over the little manual book talking about I don't want helicopter parents and all these things, like he's very transparent. He sets our goals out at the beginning of the season as well. Our goals for the season: get your degree, beat the neighbors, win the Big Sky Conference, and win the national championship. They've done 3 of those so far this year. Well, I don't know what everybody's progress on getting their degree is, but I'm sure everybody's making great progress to it. And then they beat the Cats, they won the Big Sky, and now they got one more goal to. But those goals are set out in front of you. There's pillars as well. I don't remember all the pillars right now. I don't have the book right in front of me, but there's pillars that he tells that, like, it's just very business-like, very machine-like, to where everybody understands their expectations. Everybody understands like what is to be put on the table when you come on the field, when you go in the locker room, when you're going to study hall. Like, everything is, and I think that lends itself to success. And ultimately, I just think Coach Hauk is a great motivator. He knows how to get guys going. He knows what buttons to push. He knows what to say. I mean, he's just a great coach, and the proof is in the pudding.
I want to jump into our rapid fire questions about Missoula real quick, and then we'll come back to your career. So, Sammy, coming up to Montana, landing in Missoula the very first time you step off that plane, what was your first initial memory or thought of Missoula, Montana?
Man, just wow. Like, these are mountains, you know, because I'm from Oklahoma and I had driven through, I think, places that had mountains, but I'd never really, like, I'm not really like, and you can ask my fiance about this, she hates this about me, but I'm not really the guy that's like, oh, look at the mountains, they're so beautiful. Look at the skyline in the back of the mountain. That might be because I'm from Oklahoma, but I'm not the guy who's always been like, so the fact to see mountains in person and just see how massive they were, and just to see, just like, dang, I'm really like in between these mountains, like about to go to a game, and just like, I don't know, it was just awesome to me. It was just awesome.
That's amazing. Are you a coffee drinker?
No, I'm not.
Okay. All right. If you were to go get like a hot drink, hot cocoa, maybe, is there a go-to coffee spot in town or shop that you'd go to?
Man, I don't know if I'd have one, because I'm not a coffee drinker or a hot drinker.
For some reason, I knew you weren't.
But if I could say, I'm a big breakfast guy. So Paul's Pancake Parlor, oh my gosh.
Is that your spot? That's your restaurant?
Dude.
Yeah.
Amazing. That place is awesome.
You like the mural of the Washington Griz
Oh,
Stadium?
yeah, that's all. Just everything about that place, but the pancakes, the eggs, just their breakfast. It's amazing.
Hometown cooking.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to create turf wars in Missoula. So what zip code do you live in?
59801.
59801. OG.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
He's 59803. I'm 04.
Yeah, 59803, and I think we could beat 59801 in a game of football. Quite honestly.
Oh, geez. No, yeah.
What's the weirdest thing about Missoula to you?
Dang, these are some tough questions.
Missoula's weird.
Yeah.
It's a weird place.
But the weirdest thing?
Or something weird. What?
Something weird that I personally found weird, but I think it's awesome, but I think it's weird. The fact that Coach Hauk celebrates with the fans after games. Like, I've never heard of that. And maybe that's commonplace at a lot of colleges, but I didn't know that. And I think that's so cool. And the fact that he went out after the Cat game to celebrate with fans, to be a man of the people. I just think that's weird, but I think it's also awesome. Like I love that. But that was probably something that was weird that perplexed me when I first saw it.
Born and bred Montana, and he just loves being with the people.
Oh, yeah.
He knows what it means to them.
Oh,
I love that about him. What do you love most about Missoula?
The community, bar none. I mean, the fans, the people, a part of the community, the fact that, they rally around anybody who's a part of this Missoula community, whether it be basketball players, soccer players, people like the Missoula podcast doing great things in the community, Rajim Seabrook, just everybody in the community that makes it so great. It's the people in the community that make Missoula so amazing, and that is what's truly special.
Sammy, no doubt from your college education and even as a football player, the number of books you've read, from playbooks to textbooks, is there a particular book you've read in your lifetime that has made a huge impact in your life or changed who you were?
Man, a book that changed my life. Man, I don't know if I could speak to one book that changed my life. Oh man, I don't know if there's one that's
let's
really
go to
changed
the playbook. Is there a specific play when it was in the huddle and it was called? Sammy was like, "Oh yeah, it's go time. Like this is the play."
Man. So there was this one play in 2018 that we had put in. It was a wrinkle off of a play that we had ran throughout the season. So we had this. So it's a 3-by-1 set. Think about the 3 side receivers. The farthest inside receiver was going to run a corner route, and the 2 outside receivers were going to run 5-yard ins. Okay. Well, the wrinkle off of it was I was the number 2 receiver. So if you're counting from outside in, 1, 2, 3, number 3 is running the corner. I'm running the second 5-yard in. Well, the wrinkle off of it was I'm going to run the second 5-yard in and then branch up to a seam route wide open in the middle of the field. We ran against UC Davis. We ended up losing the game, but it was a great play. It actually didn't happen so cleanly. I ran it. I was open. It worked perfectly, but Dalton had to scramble, hit me in the back of the end zone. It was still a touchdown. And, that was awesome. And that was probably a play where it was a great play that made an impact on me.
No doubt. Is there, this is so not a book, but is there a specific person that's been an incredible mentor to you in your life that you wouldn't be here today if it weren't for this person?
Man, I talked about Rajim Seabrook. He's been a great mentor to me, but if you were talking about who's made a great impact on my life, I personally got to say Coach Pease and just the impact he's had on me, the trust he imparted on me. Because I didn't have the greatest year in 2017 when Coach Pease and them were coming in here, but Coach Pease saw some potential in me and ultimately fostered that with his mentorship and his just the way he was a great coach to me. He was hard on me, but he also believed in me, and he showed that through how he put me out there. And once I proved myself in 2018, he ultimately made me a starter when we had a senior who was ahead of me. Keenan Kernan was ahead of me, my big brother, So Coach Pease has made a profound effect on my life, has had a profound effect on my life. And I always tell people I feel forever indebted to him because, obviously the Stitt offense and the Stitt coaches, I feel so grateful that they recruited me here. I wouldn't be here without them. But the changes and the things that Coach Houck and Coach Pease implemented when they got here ultimately is what I feel like propelled my career forward. So I feel grateful for him eternally.
We're just a couple of days away from national championship down in Frisco. Are you making the trip? Are you going to be there?
Man, I don't know right now if I'm going to make the trip. Me and my fiance are planning a wedding, so it's going to be tough, but that would be amazing if I could. But I'll be rooting them on no matter what.
Do you have a prediction for us?
I'm predicting a Griz dub. I can't give you guys the reasonings why. I had a strong feeling last night with my fiance, but I'm not going to give you guys the reasonings why, but I'm feeling like a Griz dub. You want me to give a score prediction or no? Just a prediction.
Let's go. Yeah, go. Give us a score. Give us a score. He's got some insight. He knows some things.
For a score prediction, I would keep it real low and say 24-21 Griz.
I like it. Can we avoid overtime, please?
I hope.
Please.
I can't handle another one.
Yeah. Well, we just have been so blessed to watch you play football and then now to see your media career take off, and you just have this magnetic personality that people gravitate towards, and you're just fun. But as I remember watching you as a Grizzly, I couldn't believe how open you got a lot of times, or if you weren't open, how you outran people because you didn't look that fast, but all of a sudden you're getting distance. But what do you think made you an elite receiver for the Grizz? Was there something specific that you did day in and day out, or what attribute did you have? Just you found your way to the end zone a lot.
Man, I tell people this all the time. As I told you guys earlier, my brother was the more athletic one of both of us. But what I had that I felt like I kind of had a leg up on him and a leg up on a lot of people was I had, the height and I had enough speed, but I put in the work. When I knew that football was going to be an opportunity for me, when I knew that it was going to be a way for me to get a college education and for me to, further my football career, I put in the work. And even after 2017, when Coach Houck and Coach Pease got here, and this relates back to the last question you guys had about the mentorship. Coach Pease came here in 2017, and he implemented this thing where all the receivers had to get 1,000 catches by the time spring ball starts. So that's really only a month and a half. At that time, I think we were still doing 6-week winter break. So it might've been like, we only had like 6 weeks to get this done before spring ball starts at the beginning of March. But we all had to get 1,000 catches, but also he made it the fact that, we could only do 100 catches a day. So we couldn't get like 200, 300 catches in one day and, be 70%.
Consistency.
Yeah, he wanted consistency. But I don't know if we picked up on this at the time, but he's teaching us that consistency. He's teaching us how to work daily. He's teaching us to do the little things every day, like get catches in. And I ended up doing that. I would stay after practices after that. I would run by myself after practice. So, I feel like, I had enough talent, but it was my work ethic that truly propelled me to be the player that I was, because I didn't feel like I was always the most talented. I had Samori Toure on the other side of me. That dude is ultra talented. Like, he's got dumb talent with just by waking up in the morning, like he's talented. So, I felt like I had to work to stay up with everybody, to keep up with everybody. And that's ultimately what I attribute all of my success to, is my work ethic.
Growing up as a kid, watching the NFL, was there a particular receiver that you just looked up to, admired, and hoped someday I want to be him?
No, there wasn't a receiver, because as a kid, I was a running back until 7th grade. And, I kept growing, and they started telling me, like, running backs aren't that tall, so you might have to switch positions. In 8th grade, I ended up moving to receiver. But the player that I looked up to as a young kid most of the time was LaDainian Tomlinson. So that's the guy who, he comes to mind when people ask me who I thought of as a kid. And to be honest, this might be crazy, but I didn't watch a ton of NFL football as a kid. Like, it wasn't until I became really good in football, really late in high school and in college, that I really started to dive into NFL football and even more college football, and really developed a true love for the game and started studying it deeply. And obviously in college, you have to study the game deeper because there's going to be more coverages. There's going to be more things that you have to know. So
is your perception of the game, or your perception of football, more just a game, or do you view it as a business? Do you have a completely different perception than probably the average fan?
I do, because, I am looking at the what do you mean by business?
Well, I mean, because now it's about contracts, paycheck,
Yeah.
It's your job. You got to show up to work when you don't feel like it.
Yes.
Like, yes, you're playing a game, but in your mind, is it, oh, I just got to go out and play a game today? Or is it like, I got to go to work?
No, I wouldn't say it's, I got to go out to work. Obviously, that's in the back of your head. You're still getting a paycheck, but ultimately, I do love the game. And it does get that for some players. Like, some players are out there like, oh, I'm here to work. I'm here to provide for my family. But it's kind of twofold. You love the game, but also this is how you provide for your family. So it's like, you can't help. I mean, in professional sports, you can't help but look at the business side of things. I mean, we see it in the NFL all the time. It's like, why isn't this guy playing? Why is this guy a free agent? Why is this, all these things, the business, if you don't take heed to the business will take over you. So you have to give it its rightful respect and understand that plays a critical role in everything that's going on in the NFL, in the USFL, in the XFL, whatever it is. But I ultimately have a love for the game and appreciate the fact that I'm still playing the game. So I try not to let that get in my head, because, pro sports are stressful in itself. If you let the business, and I could go real deep about this too, because I did struggle with some anxiety, the beginning of the USFL training camp. But if you let that stuff rule your mind, it'll ruin you. So you have to keep the game, keep the main thing. Obviously the business is there, but when I'm watching it, that's not so much what I'm thinking about.
So on a lot lower level, Brandon and I are basketball coaches, and one of the hardest parts about that is there's so many fans or parents that think they understand the game.
Oh yeah.
And so as somebody who played and knows the game of football and now analyzes the game of football, what is the most frustrating thing that you hear from fans that you're like, you don't know what you're talking about? And I'm not trying to alienate or call out any fans, but just something that you're like, y'all don't know what you're talking about.
I'll use my fiance. Last night we were watching a game and a ball got batted down and she had thought one of the guys could have caught it. And I was like, yeah, so get off his back or something. And she was going off on him and going like, oh, he should have caught that. He should have caught that. And then another guy later in the game ended up catching a pass. And she was like, that's what he should have done. I was like, yeah, but his got batted down. So it's not the same situation. And it's just outside of that situation, there's so many times that fans mention like, oh, this guy didn't he's not performing up to his level. He's not doing this right. He's not doing this right. There are so many things on these guys' plates mentally, physically. I mean, you can't possibly understand. So you have to take it light on these guys. I mean, it just doesn't make sense sometimes when fans go after the players when they have no idea what kind of pressure, what kind of scrutiny, what kind of things these guys are going through on a weekly basis, especially being student athletes. These guys have school. These guys have the fan bases. These guys have the game to plan for. I mean, some of these guys are taking 16, 17, 18 credits, like 5 courses, 6 courses. So, these guys are trying to get their education, trying to plan for their future while also trying to focus on football. It's just so much on their plate. And I think fans can get ahead of themselves.
Sammy, I owe you an apology then because I've been that fan. I remember saying, Sammy, suck it up. Your collarbone's fine. Just get back out there. We need you. Just suck it up.
Trust me, if I could, I would have, I swear.
Oh. Yeah, I remember the camera panning over to you on the sideline. You were just
coat on and just.
Oh my gosh.
Man, I just felt so bad.
Everybody said they kept showing me on the camera and stuff.
We were down in like Arizona and I remember we were watching it and it sucked the air out of the room. It was devastating. I was like, no, Sammy. No.
Yeah.
I mean, and just to go on top of what you said, Sammy, that's one of the things why I don't talk to the players because they're young, number one, and they're more successful at managing school, relationships, practice, games, 26,000 people yelling at them. They're more successful than most people yelling at them.
Right.
And so it was just so unfair.
And can I say this? The thing that gets me the most is like, do you guys think you care more than them?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you really think you care more than them?
That's a good point.
Exactly.
Like, these guys work their butts off, sweating day and night to be able to put this product on the field for you guys. Yeah. Sometimes they're going to come up short. But the fact that as a fan, if you think you care about this win or loss more than they do, you're ludicrous.
Here's the other part. They're just kids. They're 19 years old. They're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
I think we forget that.
We do. We do.
Man, yeah, I'm glad 26,000 people don't show up to watch me do my job and all the mistakes I made.
Right. I was talking to my fiance about this because I always relate back to Dalton Snead. He threw the 5 picks in Weber State. Devastating way to end his career. Amazing player. But his DMs and, his comments were really blown up after that game, people talking crazy to him. But I always said, as somebody who was hurt for that game, but I was in Weber with the team there for that game, watching that game. First off, a lot of people don't know this. Ton of our players have food poisoning for that game. I can name tons of players who have food poisoning for that game and still played. A ton of our team was sick. I got sick and I wasn't even playing. But Dalton, we're not even in that game. We're not even in the playoffs if Dalton isn't our quarterback. Like, obviously, Cam had to spell him a little bit that year, but Dalton was our guy. Dalton was the guy. We all had faith in Dalton. And, I just think that goes over people's head is yes, he had a bad game to end his career. Yes, obviously, it stinks that's the way our season ended. 5 interceptions, that hurts. But, we aren't even sniffing the quarterfinals that season if Dalton's not our starting quarterback. So, that's how I feel. I feel like it goes over people's heads, and sometimes they just need to pump the brakes, man.
Yeah. What's that like? I know we're running low on time, but I'm just having such a great time.
Yeah.
What's it like for Clifton McDowell to take over in the middle of the season, go on this incredible run? But what's that transition like in a locker room where you think you got the guy, at quarterback, and then things aren't working, and then you got to rally around another guy? Did you have to go through any of that? And how does that work inside the locker room? How do you manage that well? For a team?
I didn't necessarily have to go through that because when Dalton got hurt, we knew he would eventually come back, but we knew Cam was well enough. Cam was undefeated for so long when he started his career. We knew he could get the job done. So I never went through that. But to watch them go through this year in the locker room, you think you have the guy to begin the season. You're kind of playing two quarterbacks trying to fill it out. But I think as a player in the locker room, once you see that Clifton and the team are most successful when Clifton and the team is in there, I think that's how the team rallies around him. I think it does nothing but, charge the team up as we keep winning, as he's the quarterback, whether it looks pretty or it doesn't. We are winning with this guy under center. So that's just going to, every win, every great moment, every big moment just charges the team and the players up more to where it's like, man, like this guy somehow, some way, every time this guy's under center, we find a way to win. So I think it just does nothing but just charge the team up and motivate them more and more.
They did it. I don't know if it was week 4 or 5. Steve and I were talking after the NAU game. I'm just like, ooh, it's going to be a rough season. We're just not looking good. And something flipped. And then you just keep winning. And then we go to Idaho, win that game. And we haven't been on the road since. I mean, we have been home for the last 6 weeks?
I think, we went
Portland
to
State.
Oh, we just Portland State. But just
we've been home
set
for
ourselves up. Yeah. For just to be at home, not have to travel. Like,
it's amazing.
Because the guys rallied around Clifton and they all haven't been pretty, but
oh yeah, we got it done though.
We got it done. Take it.
And it's crazy because you say they all haven't been pretty, but really a lot of them have been pretty. Really, the last 2 are the only 2 that really haven't been as pretty. And when we've noticed that, like, oh, there's some flaws here and there. But truthfully, if you really look back at the games and if you're really analyzing the games, which everybody's not, but there were holes in this team the whole year. They were just rolling teams. There's just now.
Well, Sammy, we're Griz fans. The expectation is we win by 30 every Saturday.
Right.
So if that doesn't happen, it's not pretty.
Right. But I mean, we're playing some of the best teams in the country now.
Right.
Obviously, we have good teams in the Big Sky, but you're getting everybody's best shot, all the best teams in the country. Furman, great defense. NDSU, we I don't have to say much about NDSU. They're a great team. So the fact that these have been close games, I think it honestly speaks volumes to this team, because think how many times we were in close games earlier in the Houck season. In my career under Houck, we had many close games. We didn't come out with a win. Commend this team, commend Clifton for them to be able to stick it through when it does get tough and come out with the win, because you guys have been fans way longer than I've even been associated with this school. There's been times where it's like they just couldn't come out on top. Also, let's talk about the fact that years and years over and over, we always lost our starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Is it amazing that the 1 year our starting quarterback plays the whole season, we make it to the national championship?
Exactly.
I don't think so.
No.
So, some luck plays into the fact, and people always talk about luck. There's definitely some luck. The ball flies the right way here. The quarterback misses a throw there.
A 2-point conversion gets tipped by the right guy to land in the right guy's hands.
Any good team that's won a championship, that's been far in a deep playoff run, there was luck that played a part into it. But ultimately, when you work hard, when you put in the work, when you execute at a high level, luck is always going to find you.
I like that.
I
like that. I think that's a beautiful way to end this show. And we're so excited for the game coming up. And thank you for all that you've done in our community.
Thank you guys for having me on here.
Thank you for taking that flyer on coming up to Missoula and braving the winners, and just a pleasure to watch you play. And now to see you develop into a media star. We're rooting you on, man, and we're just so grateful to have you into the studio.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, dude, thanks for being here. It's been a pleasure watching you, getting to know you, and always be a fan of number 18.
Man, thank you guys for having me. This is awesome.